Hello and welcome to the Gothic Unicorn and to a themed video. Now when I did my bat themed video it went down so well. It went down a lot better than I expected it to. So when I made a piece at random and shared it with people over on my Facebook page, I thought, this has gone down well. Maybe I can do another themed video. And that's why this week's video is moon themed. So let's get on with it. The first piece that we are going to work on is a triple moon mirror. Now this is another one that I saw as a piece searching for possible inspiration, and I did actually have it filed away for a while before I tried making it, but it had to be done. Now I'm going to be using hole punches. As always, you don't have to. Hole punches, circle punches. Oh, my mind today. I'm going to be using, for this one, I'm going to be using a 1.5 inch circle punch. Now the example that I made first off, I made smaller scale. I made it with a 1 inch circle punch, but I decided that it was such a good piece that I would try making it bigger. So that's what we're going to use for that. And obviously, because it's a mirror, we need something that's going to be reflective. Now I've got this, which doesn't look reflective, but if I turn it over, you'll get to see more than you bargained for. This is 235 gram mirror card. I've got this because I've used it in some card making in the past, and I find that it's not actually a bad reflection. You can see my light, you can see my hand probably reflected, and I can certainly see enough of myself, but it works enough for the miniature. Now you can buy self-adhesive mirror film that is like properly mirror, but this I've got, that I haven't, and as you know, I don't like spending money if I can help it, so I'm going to go with this. And also this actually works a bit better on camera because it's not 100% reflective, and once you get it into a smaller piece it's not quite so bad for reflecting the light and hopefully not affecting the footage too much. So I'm going to start by punching a hole. I'm going to do it on the wrong side, it doesn't really matter, and that's going to have made a right noise, and that circle is going to be the basis of my centre moon, which is obviously the full moon. Now to do the crescent moons, I need to do a little bit of preparation, so I will just whiz off and return with the things done the way I need them to be. To make the crescent shape, I take the mirror and I punch out approximately a half circle, nothing more complicated than that, and then I reposition the cut half circle to another point. I'm aiming so that the sort of things inside my punch are about halfway through, and then I get myself a crescent. Now when I was trying things out for this, I tried a smaller punch on 2 layers of the mirror I think, and it worked. The big punch won't work. So I've had to do this really, really carefully, and I've got two that look the same. This is they are about the same. If I show you and turn them over, they are pretty much identical. So I will have 3 pieces that go together like that in the triple moon symbol. The easier way to do it, if you're using a thinner material or a better punch, is to layer it up, and I will show you that in something that I'm going to do later on in the video. But for now, I've got my 3 pieces of mirror, which is the basis for my piece. Now these need strengthening, because although they are quite a sturdy material, it needs a bit more. And so I'm going to use some cereal box board, and I'm going to cut a circle out to back that one, and then these two I'm going to do in a slightly different way, and I'll prepare that and explain how I do it, because it is going to take a little bit of fathoming out on my part. Now obviously there's my full moon with its reinforcement on the back, and then what I do is I take where I've already punched out a circle of the same size, and I stick the inner curve of the crescent to that, because what I find is that is the one that is harder to trim. You can cut far neater around the outside one. I mean, obviously you could just stick them flat onto a piece of material. Obviously, if you're using something like I am, with a right and a wrong side, attach it to the correct side and let it dry, and then cut it out, which is what I'm going to do in a minute. This is just my sort of easier way, especially if you're doing things smaller than this. The bigger they are, the easier it is to get the curve on the inside, but the smaller pieces, as when I did my my moon phase decoration, that was quite fiddly. So this is just a little simplifying trick that I've come up with. Now if you don't fancy the idea of making a triple moon mirror, you can just make a round mirror in the same way. You could also use the same method to make a tray, perhaps a mirrored tray, because they have been quite popular as a decor piece. Because all we're going to do now is we're going to put a little frame around each piece. Now I'm using some cardstock that I found in my bits. I don't know what I've used the rest of it for, but it's been put with my bits, and I'm going to use it. It's a reasonable thickness, but it's not too thick. It has got a lot of bend in it, which is important. I'm going to show you a bonus piece at the end of this video that I'm not making again, because it was difficult enough the first time. But I will show you, and then you know, it's something that I'll explain how I did it and you can try it yourself. But I did that using 2 layers of the food packaging board, and it was too thick and I had lots of problems as a result. But you want something that has just got a nice curve that will bend quite happily, because we're going to turn these into what I call a tray frame. That is where the frame sticks up from the initial piece. And if I show you, I'll finally show you the finished original piece, my 1-inch piece, you can see that I've just got a little tiny bit that sticks up, and then I've got the 3 pieces of mirror stuck together. They're not very sturdy, because I just stuck it together and thought, okay, that'll do. If I'm going to put it into a room, I may put a piece across the back to just a thin strip to reinforce it. Not sure yet what I'm going to do with it. So, as I say, I'm going to use that red, and I have cut some strips that are a, 1/8 of an inch wide. I've gone for 1/8 of an inch because I cut it using my Tim Holtz ruler, and it has got lines between the dark lines that are 1/8 of an inch apart. So it is as simple as that. I did it because it was easy. So I'm going to glue this around here, and you'll want to decide which side is going to be your good side and which side isn't. And you also want to play with it a bit first before you glue it. That's probably sounds a bit odd, but if you manipulate it a bit first, it will start to bend and you'll be able to put it into place. So I need to wait for my glue to go tacky, because a tacky glue is ideal for this. You don't want anything too runny, and then I'm going to start sticking it into place. What I'm doing to stick the frame on is I am just applying the smallest amount of glue to the outside of my mirrored piece, and I'm doing a small section at a time. You can do whatever you feel comfortable with, but I don't recommend that you go all the way around in one go. And then I'm popping the piece onto the top, and you want your frame to actually be flush with the back, and then you have to hold it in place a short while just so that it actually takes. Now my glue is quite tacky now, but it still does the, no, I don't want to do that. I'm going to bounce off and not stay in place. Once I get towards the point where I can see that I've got enough, I just trim off most of the excess. And I'm actually probably going to try and be a little bit naughty here, and I'm going to try and put all of this down in one go. This could be a complete and utter disaster. I just trim it around, push it around like that. Again, hold it in place. Now I use another cocktail stick just to tidy up the worst of the glue. The glue should dry clear. If you look at the previous one, you can see that there's a bit visible. I don't care, because that sort of fits with the kind of everything isn't exactly perfect look of my doll's house. If you want it cleaner, you need to be even more precise with applying your glue. Now all that I do, just to finish it off, is I put a small amount of glue on the overlap, and I push that into place, making sure that it lines up top and bottom. I'm going to put this aside to dry, and then I'm going to show you how I do the crescent. So that should be okay now, I hope. Now I've got another piece here for the crescent, and I'm going to do as I did before. I'm going to curve it a bit. Now I'm going to actually completely disregard what I told you to do just before, in that I'm going to put a run of glue all around the inside edge of my crescent. Now I've not actually done a very good job with lining this one up, which is ironic, because I've already done the other one, and that one was fine. And all that I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to push it into place. Again, you want to make sure that it is flush with the back, and that it's stuck in place all the way along. That's actually come out really, really nicely. Now I'm just going to hold this for a few moments to ensure that it's dry before I do the other side. But what I find is if you do it this way and you have your join on the what I consider the outside, you can actually lose the join when you stick your round piece and your crescent piece together. So I'm just going to let this cure off a little bit and then we'll be back to finish it. What I have done while waiting for this to be dry, well actually waiting for some more glue to sort of go a bit tackier, is I have bent the corners quite neatly and I have cut the one side down so that it comes somewhere in the middle. That's actually still a little bit on the long side for what I want, so I'm going to trim off another section and lose it forever. And what I'm going to do here is I am again going to apply a small amount of glue. Now I apply it from the back because I tend to find that way if I'm going to blob any, it blobs onto the back and not onto the front of the mirror. That's just how I work. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this down so far, make sure it's all nice and smooth. This is one of these tasks where if you could have an extra pair of hands, it would be incredibly useful. I've not found any tool or gadget that will provide me with hands that work in quite the right way though. You know, you can get these stands that clamp things. They don't quite do what I need them to do. I've got one. So I'm going to put hopefully enough glue to cover this to the end. Now I need a little tiny bit more. And that should allow me to finish that side. If my glue was tacky enough, which this isn't quite because I was running out of suitable glue, it would take a bit quicker. We do that, we hold it for a moment, and then I'm going to repeat the process on the other side. This is fairly straightforward, and I do it again. You could make a nice crescent moon shaped tray if you wanted to. There's no reason why not. You could make a deeper dish using a deeper strip. I'm just gone for a nice narrow piece because that seemed to match the frame on the inspiration piece that I was working with. I say seem to because I'm just working from a photo. That will bring me up to the join. I'm going to trim this off again and not drop that in the glue because that would be an absolute disaster. And I'm going to tidy this up and I'm going to stick that into place, but I'm going to hold this piece into place for a bit before I stick it into place because it's all moving rather a lot, and I will come back in a moment to show you how to put the three pieces of the mirror together. Once all 3 pieces are successfully glued and dried, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my crescents and I'm going to put a little bit of glue over the area where I've got the join. Now I've put this one on my mat on one of the lines, and this just allows me a little bit of a helping hand with lining things up. I can line it up on the line and I can just make sure that it looks right, and then I'm going to repeat this process on the other side. And again, push them together. Now, as I said with the smaller one that I showed you before, you can, if you wish, put a piece across the back, just a thin piece, no more than say 1/4 of an inch like this, just to strengthen the back, for no other reason than it might make life a bit easier when you come to stick it onto a wall or something. But that's up to you. I think this actually, if I was going to stick it on the wall even, it wouldn't be much good on the floor now, would it? Would be quite successful. So there's our first moon project, which is the triple moon mirror. 2 different colourways. As I say, you can do it any way you like. I do like the black, but I decided to do the red for a little bit of a change. And as you can see here, you can do it in different sizes. That is the difference between 1 inch and 1.5 inch circle. You could do it bigger, smaller, whatever, but it makes a really good piece for your sort of witchy doll's house. For my second make, my main, almost only material is going to be some cereal box board. It's a big panel off a cereal box, and it is some of this that I've actually already started using to make the materials to make what is going to be a moon phase themed hanging rack. Confused? You won't be. I have prepared all the pieces to make the basic structure of this, and to do it I've used this punch. Now this punch is approximately 1 centimetre, 10 millimetres, which is about 3/8 of an inch, and I punched out 2 full circles and then 2 crescents. Because the material is actually thinner than the mirror material that I used, I was able to stack 2 layers up and get 2 identical crescents, and then I stuck it onto another piece because everything here is doubled up to give it extra strength, and so that I've got the non-printed side for both of them. The backing piece is just a strip which is approximately 1 3/4 inches long and about 1/8 of an inch wide. I've actually got 6 of these stuck together because I want a nice depth, because this is going to be going on the wall. Now I need to now stick each of my pieces onto the wall, onto the strip. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and use some of these lines on my mat, and I'm going to put a bit of glue approximately in the middle, I think I've figured that one out right. And then I put in the first full moon. Now the crescent moons are going to go on each end, either end, and so that is quite straightforward to pop these on. Like so. And then all I need to do is I need to centralise what I've got left, and I think that's about there and about there. And then I put in place my half moons, which are of course made by cutting a full circle into two. You could include more crescents. You could include down to the sort of symbol that they use for a new moon, which seems to be, if I remember rightly, sort of a circle with a hole in the middle. But 5 pieces is going to be quite big enough for my little hanging rack. Now the next step is to make the hooks that are going to go beneath this. So I'm going to let this dry, and I'm going to get some wire out, and I'm going to start making my little hooks. I have made my 5 little hooks using some quite strong jewellery wire, craft wire. This is a fairly heavy gauge. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but you want something that will definitely hold its shape. That's the main sort of piece of advice I can give you on that. And I have simply cut some pieces, and I've used my little jewellery making pliers, although any pliers could do, to make some little hooks. And I'm going to actually glue these on each of the positions in a moment. Now what you can see, if I bring this up here, is I've got a really nice background, backing piece here, and then I've got my moon phases on the front. Now the original one I was thinking of doing it as something akin to a jewellery hanger, so I thought I could actually put some little tiny necklaces or something, or some ribbons hanging off it. That was my sort of trial piece that I did. This one, I'm actually thinking I'm going to use it in the kitchen, and so that's why I've gone for more depth, because it will allow me potentially more depth away from the wall for what I want to hang. Because obviously if I'm going to hang kitchen utensils, they could potentially be a bit bigger than a little bit of ribbon. So I'm just going to stick these in place with my ordinary glue. You could make a hole. Perhaps I should, if I can find the correct tool. It is buried here, just off screen. I've got my little paper piercer. And if I make a little hole in between my layers, into my layers, sort of like this, and then put a little bit of glue in approximately the right place, and then try and push my hook into said hole. Now hopefully that will stick and will give me a nice finish. I'm going to paint this, so I'm not too worried about how it all looks underneath. But obviously what I need to do is I need to put, I'm going to do it without the holes. I don't think it's made much difference. I'm going to stick one piece, one hook, one little wire hook underneath each of the moon phases, and this is really fiddly. I think you can get the idea. Oh, I've dropped one now. I dropped it in the glue. It's a good job I'm going to paint it, isn't it? No, he's not going to play. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this down and I'm going to clean this wire up, and I'm going to come back to you once I've got them all glued in place. I know from doing the original one that this is not the easiest of tasks, and it's another one of those tasks where you could do with extra hands, which is never easy when it's miniature because nothing holds things quite right. I have stuck all of the hooks into place, and I've also put some glue along the edges where I've got everything piled up. Laminated edges where it's laminated. It's just to strengthen those raw edges anyway. And once that glue dries, we'll move on to painting. This is probably a good time to show you my prototype. Again, this is something that I saw something similar online and decided to give it a go. I've refined my wire hooks. It was going to happen. This one's just actually made from a little bit of scrap cardstock that I had in black, with a piece of cereal box just to reinforce the back. Nothing fantastical. As I said, this is narrower, closer to the wall. It just means that I need to hang flatter things off it. But that sort of was my initial idea, and I've refined it a bit. Now this one, whilst I love the black, and the black is very in keeping with the sort of spooky, witchy, gothic-y vibe, this is going in the kitchen and I want it to look metallic. So I'm going with a nice silver metallic paint. Now normally when I use the silver metallic I put a black undercoat, and I'm not too careful with the silver, but I want this to actually look like it might be a new piece, not an old and worn one. So I'm just going to go with a couple of coats of the silver paint and see how we do with that. I will be adding some paint to the wire hooks just to tone them down a bit so they look like they're more in the same area with the colour, because these are very shiny. They're actually metal, and actual metal and paint can never compare. So that's my aim. We'll see how it turns out. And here we have it, my little silver utensil hanger, I suppose you could call it. Could be used for hanging anything, but I'm going to put it into my witch's kitchen. Well, my spooky kitchen with witchy undertones. But there it is, second project completed. This is my third and final moon themed project, and it is a moon mirror shelf unit. I'm not going to try making this on camera because, as I think I mentioned earlier, it was a bit of a nightmare to make. It's made in a very similar way to the mirror trays, but obviously it's a deeper side piece. And then there is another piece around the crescent mirror, which just blocks off the area where you're going to put your shelves. Basically, the material I was using was too thick. If I was going to try and do this again, I would try and do it with some actual cardstock, a couple of layers of that, something that would actually bend a bit better than my cereal box material, which is why the outside's a little bit on the rough side. Even after me covering it with glue to sort of neaten it up and finishing it off with some matte Mod Podge. I do like this piece though, and I think it's going to be quite effective, and it will get a place in one of my projects at some point. It was made with the 1.5" circle punch, and then that is, I think, a 1/4" strip. Yeah, I think it's about 1/4 inch that strip is, just to give me the depth. It's not very deep, but I thought it'd be quite pretty to put maybe a couple of crystals or something in there. I don't know. It was just another moon themed decor item that I saw online and decided to give a go. They don't always work, and sometimes they're kind of passable. You know, I'm not even going to pretend that I am a brilliant miniature maker. I just like to play around, and sometimes I get it right, sometimes not so much. But that is the sort of third bonus project that I thought I'd share with you today. And here we have my 2 completed moon themed projects, complete with alternative versions, and of course my 3rd bonus idea. I hope you've enjoyed this moon themed video. It just seemed like a good way of making some decor pieces that could work in witchy miniatures, spooky miniatures, just because you like the moon. I'm not judging. That's what you want to put in your miniature world. Go out right ahead. You won't find any judgment from me. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, please like, comment and subscribe. Maybe even ring that notification bell. And until next time, bye!